Okay. And you maybe can move over a little bit so then you can see her better, right? Yeah. But, yeah. He can see over you. Yeah. Are we all set? So thank you for appearing for the Sunday Dharma talk today. And given the introductory talk, it'll be Dave Fitzpatrick, who's been around for 8 years, and yesterday he just received his 10 precepts. So he's a Dharma teacher in training, and he's going to tell you more about himself when he begins his speech, his intro talk. And answering questions today is Zen Master Soeng. And she is the school Zen master of the Quantum School of Zen. She received Dharma transmission from Zen Master Seung on October 10, 1992. She was one of Zen Master Seung's first American students and studied with him beginning in 1972. She was given Inca in 1977. She's a I don't know. You're a registered nurse. Does that stay registered nurse even when you're retired? No. Okay. She was a registered nurse and she's retired now. And she was a registered nurse in 1969, and she helped found the Providence Zen Center here. And so she's found this place, helped found this when Zen Master Seung Honorable moved from Hope Street to here. She helped set it up, and she lived here for quite a while, and served in different capacities here. And and she's going to answer all your questions, and also she's going to be leading the 7-day sitting that we're having, which will start this afternoon at 1:30. So any of you guys feeling like you want to hop in, knock yourselves out. Okay, thank you.
So as he mentioned, I've been coming here for about 8 years now. I'm a software engineer. I live in Fall River with my wife. Got a couple of grown kids. That's probably all you need to know. So how did I end up here today? Craziest thing. So I apologize to everybody for that little interruption at the beginning of our sit today. I was asked to give the talk in that moment. So that was really interesting because it fed into something I've been thinking about. Yesterday, I was speaking to Diane Eagles. Zen Master, what's her name? Doesn't she?
Name?
No, Diane Eagles. Isn't she a Zen Master now?
You said Gita Pope's name.
Oh, Gita Pope's name. Okay, so yesterday she encouraged new Dharma teachers to not be afraid of giving talks. And I talked to her, and she mentioned how apprehensive she was in giving talks, and I shared a moment with her afterward. I'm horrified of these, horrified. So I've given, 7 so far. So I'm always on the lookout for a topic. You know, you kind of, your life happens, Dharma happens, somebody asks a question in the class, and you're like, that's a good talk. So I've been rumbling around with this idea about karma. Something crazy happened to me a while back, which I'll tell that story in a little bit. So I've been thinking about karma, and then I get asked to give this talk, sitting next to the woman who just published a book on karma. So out of nowhere, I'm giving a talk. I don't like giving talks. I'm giving it on a topic in front of the school's headmaster on a book I haven't read yet. So this is great. So karma, cause and effect. Everything has led to this moment, right? From the beginning of this time, all the way up to the point where I was asked to give the talk, and I was able to say yes. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then the panic set in because now I got to come up with a story. So I looked this up a little while back. I think karma is something, the official definition is something along the lines of accumulating merit, lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, be it good or bad. And the lifetime to lifetime to lifetime thing, I think I know, in the Indian Hindu tradition, there's an enduring self that runs that path. I know in traditional Buddhism, there's not an enduring self, but there is karma that runs that path. And then I believe in our school, it might be best to say, don't know. What happened before, what happens after? Don't know. I like that. That works for me. However, I do believe in the sense of lifetime to lifetime continuity, you know? You think of, beginningless time from the very first atom of life. It has all been a cause and effect that has led to this very moment. Okay, I can buy into that. That works for me. I also believe in the shorter sense, lifetime to lifetime personally. I think of my grandfather. He worked in a steel mill in Pawtucket near the river. I was probably, the 40s and 50s. I bet you everything that came out of that place went right in that river. My dad was a greaser, in the 50s. And in that era, I'm still horrified to think about this, but in that era, they would change their car's oil. And does anybody know what they did with the oil? They dumped it in the drain in the street. They would just straight into the sewer and boom, off into the river. So maybe there's some karma there that's kept me out of that river when I was growing up over near Slater Mill. I don't know. But there's also other things. My grandparents were Christian, Catholic. My parents were Catholic. That led me to Catholic, and somehow that led me here. I have no idea what the thread there is, but here I am. But I'm sure there was some karma that pushed me along that path. And then within our own lives, individual, a very short span of time that we're here. I had a great conversation about this with one of our Sangha members. He's not here today. It's too bad. And his perspective on it was, am I, Dave, today, the same person that played in the sandbox, 55 years ago? Are the things I did 55 years ago, that has been a series of events that has led to this moment again. So is that karma through that life, over lifetime to lifetime, from the little boy to the high schooler, to the adult, to the married guy, to the parent, to the kids moving out. Oh crap, now Dharma teacher in training. So are they all the same person, or are they not? And yet the karma from my actions have rolled along, good or bad merit. And here I am. So the story I wanted to tell you was about what I really think about karma the most. All these things I've talked about so far, good or bad, this cause and effect. It's led me down a path, and here we are. Maybe some of it's bumped into you along the way. Maybe it's bumping into you right now. But the thing for me about karma that really, really impacts me is something I'm going to call mental habits. I think we've heard that in this school, saying karma is mental habits. It's how you keep your mind, and how you respond to the moment. And the event I mentioned earlier was I had a huge cabinet in my barn that I wanted to get rid of. It was massive, with big plexiglass doors on it. And I posted it online. Somebody said they wanted it. They said they were coming over to get it. Everything's good. And I have this bright idea. I'm going to move it out of my barn into the driveway in front of my barn so it would be easier to see and load it in their car. Big, heavy thing. Get it up on a hand truck, start rolling it. The door swings open, hits the ground, shatters. The guy's on his way to me, and that happened. I immediately go into self-flagellation mode. Stupid. Should have tied the door shut. Should have just anger, raging, boiling through me. And then my practice kicked in. It's fine. My habit of getting angry and succumbing to anger is something that is always on hand, always ready to boom, let the anger rip. And in this moment, it's a broken door. Guy coming to get it. What do? Call him. I broke the door. You won't believe it. I'm not lying to you. I broke it. It was an accident. He decides he's going to come look at it anyways. I'm like, okay. So I've got like 5 minutes to calm down. I'm still beating myself up over being so impulsive to move this thing so quickly and breaking it. Anyways, guy shows up and he looks at it. And I swear this guy was like, this whole thing was like this bodhisattva in action thing going on. This guy shows up and he looks at it. He goes, I can fix that. Okay. I'll take it. Now I'm expecting like the big negotiation, right? He's going to Jew me down something fierce. He reaches into his pocket for the money, and he says, I know we agreed on this, but I only have 20s and a 5, so you can take extra or short yourself $5. I was like, I broke the door. I'll short myself $5. So I took the money, we loaded it in his truck, he drives home, and I'm now all of a sudden the relief. I survived. I survived the practice, I survived the sale, everything went perfect. And he sends me a picture later that day showing this new cabinet taped together in a corner filled with his stuff. He said, thanks so much, that was great. So remarkable. Everything that appeared in that moment of shatter, all my karma of, what have I done? You're such a dummy. I screwed this up. What am I going to do next? How am I going to get rid of this cabinet? There's no way I'm going to get a piece of plastic to fix. I'll never be able to fix this door, and it's now scrapped. You know, this overwhelming flow of bullshit, and it worked out perfect. Just remarkable. Did karma have anything to do with how it worked out? I don't know. My mental habits and my practice had a huge part of it, though. That catching the anger appear, boom. That seeing it show up and catching it, that's practice. That's, oh, I saw it. Now what do I do about it? I couldn't get rid of it. I couldn't say, okay, turn that off. My practice isn't so strong that it didn't appear. You know, it did appear. But what I did with my practice was anger. It'll go, it'll pass. This moment will be fine. Something will come of this. I'll get rid of the cabinet, I'll throw it in the trash, I'll bring it to the dump, whatever, it'll be fine. The guy will take it, he won't, it'll be fine. And it chilled. I didn't have a lot of time, and then it worked out beautifully. And then it's funny, because once he loaded it and drove away, all of the angst just gone. It went away as fast as it came with the whack. So my whole point of this rant is the mental habits, is seeing the mental habits, not perpetuating them. You know, a mental habit is a lot like an addiction. Somebody that's addicted to cigarettes, each cigarette reinforces the habit and allows the next one to come sooner. Same thing with drinking. Each drink makes it easier for the next one to show up. When you're working against these habits, mental habits, each time you respond in a different way, you're reinforcing that different way. And seeing that appear and deciding how you're going to respond to it all comes down to how you keep your mind. To quote the boss here, everything about our practice is being at peace with whatever appears. So can you keep that mind of being at peace with whatever appears? And to do that, it all starts with our practice. And it all starts with sitting here, just like we did today. So I thank you all for being here today to help me practice.
Thank you. Good job.
Thanks. Will you sign my book?
Yeah, no.
I wonder if anything I said is in the book. Can't wait to find out.
Everything you said is in the book. Yeah.
Oh, you can go ahead.
Well, I just want you to sit down, that's all. Yeah. Thank you, that was nice. What you said at the last part was you can be at peace with whatever happens, but sometimes things happen and you're really not at peace. You might, peace to me would, you know, when you hear, because I was a nurse for so many years, I had a few people tell me about their being brought back from a cardiac arrest or something. And people report the same thing, that they go down this tunnel and they see light, and it doesn't matter what background they come from, they start to feel like this release and this love and this expansion. And being welcomed and drawn into love. And it's the past is nothing that matters anymore. It's nothing. It's nothing. We always know we can't change the past, but they drop the past, and it's a wonderful feeling. And but we're not going down the tunnel unless something hits us soon. But we're here now, and I have faith that we can be released, and we can be released through meditative states as well. We can. That's why I'm so excited about doing this retreat this week. I really love when we all cooperate and we all keep silence, and this is a wonderful room, and it can become very, very, very peaceful. So we're at peace. And yet, there's some things that make us so sad, or that are very unresolved, and we're in a dance. We're in this karmic dance with human beings and animals and the earth, and the Pawtucket River with all the sludge on the bottom of it. It's all there, and some of that can make us anxious or sad or angry or whatever. So I think that we can drop our anger because it doesn't have much function. But I think sadness does have a function, and we can be aware that we'd like things to be healed and more honest and more open. And so if they're not that way, we can feel, better than frustrated even. It's just that basic sadness, the state that we're in. And so I've had a lot of that going on the past couple of years with the environment and the political situations, and just the behavior, the wars, the famine, the lack of housing. It's a lot of, we get all of that information all the time on the news. And so what do you do with that is digest it, and maybe strengthen your practice, strengthen your resolve to be a good person, to communicate more with your family members and other people, your neighbors. I have a lot of, I live in California, so I'm very, very fortunate, and have a wonderful apple tree, a Fuji apple tree that just produces. It's everybody tells me this is the best apple I've ever had. It's just, it drip. When you chew into it, it drips down your chin. It's got so much apple juice in it, and it's the best juice. It's amazing. Very, very crispy, and so it's just lucky. I bought this in a nursery and about 10 years ago, and it's amazing. And so then I'm always giving people apples, and I could just, I don't know, it's just, and if I was more introverted, I would probably, I don't know what I do make applesauce, but it's so nice to leave them at people's doorsteps and stuff. It's a little piece of peace, a little piece of I love you type of thing that we can do. And so I think that more deep our practice becomes, and I hate to say deep, but it's just the more awareness that we can tune into, really. It's not deep. It's always here. Then the more we're able to access our ability to be kind and generous and attentive. So that's all we're working for here. That's why I guess most of you came today. It's just, how can I let go of the hindrances and wake up to the awareness? So thank you. That was a nice talk, and made me want to say that. So, is there any questions? Are there any questions? Yes.
You said something about sadness and anger, and how anger is not something to hold on to. But I believe that sadness is a good thing to have, and anger but it's all about balancing. Sadness is more about certain things that you can control, things like that. Anger is more of like, you might be isolating something new or putting it down, and it comes out in anger because you're not self-aware of the things that is triggering you.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes certain people just suck it up for so long, and they are not self-aware of the things that are triggering, and they come out in anger. And everyone will look at them as like, oh, that's an angry person, they're not managing their anger well. But it's like, sometimes there's a certain part where somebody has to look at it and say, okay, that's anger, but there's a reason why. And the other person has to look back and say, okay, I shouldn't be angry at everything all the time. I expressed it, now I look back on myself and reflect. I do
Yeah,
think it's positive to experience all emotions.
yeah, of course. Yeah. Of course. Thank you. That wasn't a question, which is fine. Are there any questions?
Well, then can I ask about why do you think anger is not well?
Just the mic, the microphone, so people online. Thank you.
Then can I come out of a question out of this conversation is, why do you think anger is now well to feel or like not good to feel?
I didn't say that. I just,
You mentioned something about the sadness, you feel it more, but anger, we shouldn't react on it more.
okay. So- Yeah, I didn't really say that. I just think that, just as you said, if we ask the very vital question, how is it just now? What's going on just now? Then we can access what did make us angry, exactly. And hopefully we can do something about that. And either we accept, embrace that that was just a lesson that we got and it's over, or if it's still going on, we can shift over and protect ourselves, protect our family, protect whatever needs to be protected. So it's just having a relationship to the anger where you're not being controlled, where you're not getting pushed around, and you're not really cognating what is actually the cause of that anger. So that's all that I was trying to say. I mean, I didn't say that, but that's what I meant. Yeah. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, so we're the big what is this school? You know, one of the things we encourage to do on the cushion is just that wide question of like, how is it just now? Or what is this, without analyzing, but just asking, only asking, and keep wide open. And then those things like some undigested, unresolved anger issues, they might float up, and because you're being wide and open and you're not being threatened at the moment, you can start to see, oh, maybe I could do this, or maybe I do need to just let go of it. But sometimes, yeah, you shouldn't let go of it because you have to deal with it. You have to fix it, fix whatever made you so unhappy and angry, right? I mean, maybe you can go and speak out to someone or else change something in your life. But that comes from your intuition, that you slowed down enough to kind of see what was actually going on. Yeah. So somebody raised their hand?
Me here. Hi, I don't know if you just mentioned it right now, but can you elaborate a little more in what do you mean by digesting the karma? And how do you know that you have digested and it's not going to come back?
Well, you never know if it's not going to come back. That would be nice to know that, but we don't know anything. We don't know. We really don't know anything.
Is there anything that you feel, especially that you don't get angry anymore about certain things, or that?
Well, I think because I was in therapy for a couple of years when I was like 40. And that's a long time ago, but it was super helpful for me because even though I'd been living here, I actually was still living here when I first went into therapy. So I've been here like 17 years. And you can sit down if you want.
Oh.
Yeah. You know, I was telling the therapist, I said, you know, this thing happened, and I said it really made me angry, and because I didn't feel like it was fair. And I said, I just right there dealt with it. We weren't punching or anything like that, but I said what I needed to say. I just used the anger and I got out, defended what I needed to defend. And she said, well, that's okay. And here I thought I'd kind of accomplished something. She said, but what was your initial feeling when that person laid that on you, you know, said that thing to you, or they were going to do something and I didn't want them to do it. And I said, oh, it made me really sad. And that was my initial thing was, oh, if you did that, that would be terrible. It would be so sad. That's what I really felt, not, you can't do that. Which is what I said, you can't do that. But what if I had just gotten to the sadness of the situation, you know, what the person said was actually a really sad scenario. And I could have just sat there and just stood there and wept, or not manipulatively, but really just, oh, that would be awful, and just wept. That would have been more honest. That would have been really more intimate for me to do with that person. Like, this is a really sad thing, and I really hope it doesn't happen. Instead of like that. So that, I think that the actual initial real gut feeling is what is the most powerful thing to give to anything, to a plant, to a walk we're taking, to a person. Anything is that we could just be real and really be in touch, be really in touch with the initial actual what's going on thing. So I found that was a really powerful thing to be. For me, she pointed out, yeah, we get angry, but what's under the anger? And maybe it's not always sadness, but it often is. It's often whatever's going on is not what we consider a healthy, nice, vital, helpful thing. So yeah, sounds like a psychology course, but. Any other questions? Or did that make sense to you?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
So I have a question about how to kind of get along with people in groups, because I find I think it's true in real life also, not to say that this isn't real life, but like in the Sangha, it's like the more you get, at first you meet someone, you're like, oh, this person is great, we agree on everything. And then the more you get to know them, there comes a point where you disagree, or like you agree with someone else, and then you have to kind of strike a balance in terms of like, what is my relationship to this person versus this other person, and maybe those people are fighting, so yeah, that's my question.
Well, historically that's been going on since the beginning of cavemen. That's we have this brain that we're protecting. In the very old times, all they had was a club, a stick, a rock. And they had to have those available to protect their family, protect their food, because other people were perhaps trying to take. They needed it. So they're taking it from someone else. And that's just the basic, all animals protect their food source, protect their animals, their babies. And so you find these forms of protection. And then stuff, because we have a much more sophisticated brain, it gets complicated in all kinds of ways, every kind of way you can imagine. So you can be aware of that because you're going to work with other people, there might be some complications. There might be some confusion. There might be some quote-unquote bad behavior, unsophisticated, selfish behavior amongst us, however you want to label it, but harmful behavior. And don't not expect that, because that's kind of the history of our whole species has been conflict. So, some people become hermits. They don't want to deal with it at all. There's nothing wrong with being a hermit, but they're aware that it gets more complicated when you have to be in a community, and they choose not to be. And they might choose not to be, not just to stay away, but to embrace the silence. And so that's a very valid path. And then if we don't take that path, then we're going to have to learn how to get along with each other and how to resolve conflict. And I wish when we started the Zen Center, we used to fight with each other. But we were so exhausted because we all had to work, and we built this place. We didn't have a lot of money. It was just still crappy, but it was worse. That original building is, you imagine it 50 years ago, it's bad, it's worn down even more than it was, but it was not a new building. And so all kinds of stuff. And some people work harder than others. Some people are more honest than others. Some people are brighter than others, and some people are kinder than others. And it's always going to be like that. But how do we help? We have that, the other big question we have is, how can we help? So if someone's, if there's something going on with someone, then what is my correct relationship, function, situation with that person? What is it? In everyday life, out there, the wisdom of the masses, people say, just count to 10. A lot of people say that, count to 10. And that's our primary point at counting to 10. It's just cut it out. Just cut it out and let your mind rest. Like 1, 2, 3. People know that technique. Just cut it out. Give yourself a rest. Then reappear. Sometimes you can just say, this is hard for me right now, and let's start all over again tomorrow. Maybe. You can do that. You can do this outrageous. Oh, but we have to get it done today. I don't think so. So that's like some wisdom there. Like, back off. So you think that, if you're really clear, you can just clean it up right in this moment and get the work done. But we're not always that clear. None of us are. None of us are. So there's no shame in saying, let's give this a break. I can't do this right now. But you don't have to lash out and start calling names and, accusing. And so we always talk in our practice about, your conditioning and your opinions are like, what you were saying about karma. We're conditioned. And we have opinions, we have habits, we have likes and dislikes and blah, blah, blah. So that's why we came here to practice, is to work with that. To let go of your condition, let go of your opinion. Let go of your situation and just see it. And right there, you can go, maybe we should start all over again tomorrow, or maybe we should switch jobs, or maybe we should just get some help here, have a mediation. That's what we didn't know. Back then we didn't know about. The psychology was much less sophisticated, 40 years ago than it is now. There's wonderful, wonderful people working with how do people get along. And there's books written about community and obviously about office dynamics. There's all kinds of wisdom about that kind of stuff. It's just that sometimes as Zen students, I'm speaking for myself, back then we didn't know how to access that. We didn't have any help. We didn't have any marriage counseling or mediation with conflict. But it's going to happen. It's going to happen everywhere. It's actually a gift because it gets you to start practicing harder if you have that path. And my teacher was he was pretty, he was a super confident and he had a lot of experience and he was forceful. So sometimes he'd have people walking around with silence around their neck, with the word silence. He said, you don't talk for 3 weeks. They could say, I need some water or something like that, but they just don't get into it with anybody for 3 weeks. And it would be like, we would respect that person, that they were willing to stay here and practice. And it wasn't thought of as shameful. It's kind of, I wouldn't do that to someone now. But this is 40 years ago, and he came from from Korea, South Korea, and this was something that they would do, and it worked. That person would always say, wow, that was great not to have to talk. And then they could see their thinking, they could see their reactions and all of that without acting out on them. And it really calmed them down, Then he'd tell us, you do 300 bows a day, or you do 500 bows a day. It doesn't take that long to do 500 bows, so you could find that extra hour and a half and do them. And we were young, and so we'd do the extra bowing, and that would help. But that was great having somebody here that would, just kind of, he wasn't involved in the mesh of how we were trying to run the place, so he was the boss, so he could kind of see, like, this one's a troublemaker, this one needs to practice more, this one needs this. So none of us is perfect. But if you can begin to see the people that are your greatest teachers are some of the most imperfect people in the world. That those are the ones that really snag your consciousness. They snag you. It's like, what? I'm not going to talk about politics, but it's just like, and some of them don't go away, It's like you think they're going to go away, they don't. It's like, what the hell? It's like, so then for me, I have to say, well, this is your teacher. This is something. This is bigger than you. You got. So for me, I've been just practicing harder and giving out more apples. Just like, what can I do? I can't control things, but I can be generous. I can be kind. I can practice harder, and that's such an antidepressant. It's such a gift. And of course, if you're practicing harder and you're asking, how can I help, you're going to feel better. You're going to feel better. Even frustration might appear, but frustration comes from an idea, like an idea. You get frustrated because you have some idea that it could be different. But it's not different. So then what? Pass out some more apples, It's like, so I just feel like we can't get hooked on some idea that things could be better, because they might just get worse in some ways. They probably are going to get worse. So then how can we be strong and help, be kind? Did that answer your... I can't remember who asked the question. It did, yeah. I mean, and we have these... Every religion has the same precepts about patience and honesty and kindness and not killing and not getting drunk and all these things. Everybody already knows how to avoid a lot of conflict. A lot of it is patience. And, that wonderful saying, this too shall pass. It will pass, but like as it's passing, why don't you learn something from it? Don't just, don't ignore it. Notice it. What's grabbing you? What's making you sad? What's making you angry? What is it? And then you don't do it, maybe. So, any other questions? Yeah.
Sometimes people get insecure of they stick to don't know. And it's really good to have that, but where do you separate yourself from intuition and don't know?
Don't know is not shutting a door. Don't know isn't really not. It's the best word. Don't know is a good word to give a mind a mind that thinks in duality. So you give it permission. Don't know means you give it permission. Just don't know. Just give it a break. You don't know. But also don't know is don't know is this wide. If you don't know, then your mind stops thinking. Then stay with it and things widen. And that's where your intuition can seep in. Because you're not grabbing at anything, your hands are open. And then you can take in all the gifts, the incredible gifts. I always hesitate talking about this, but I often bring it up because my teacher was very strict. He was very strong, and he had me do 3 100-day retreats. And I was a mother and a nurse, and we weren't rich. We didn't. I had bills to pay and blah blah blah. But I took time off 3 different times in my life. Just no health insurance. I mean, one time they kept giving me my health insurance, my employer. But it was like they gave me the time off because I said, this is my obligation, my spiritual obligation with my teacher. And in Rhode Island, it's a very spiritual state on lots of levels. They would honor that. They said, okay, if you have to do it, you have to do it. And they let me come back 3 months later. It was amazing that I was able to pull that off while I still worked full time. Come back to that same job. Every time it worked, but because I did that, because I was alone in a cabin, I went to the same place every time. No running water, no electricity, lots of space, lots of hemlocks and pines and maples and all this buffering. So just like the hermit, just that hermit life. What a gift. What a gift. I had my bag of rice, my bag of beans, my seaweed, my miso. I had all the nutrition I needed, my little thing of vitamin pills, and just everything I needed for 100 days. As far as nutrition, heat, I had plenty of wood, I had plenty of water. I just had to gather them. So it was a lot of physical work, which was great. And then I had my teacher, like the second retreat I did, I was going through a very rocky time in my marriage, and he said, you have to do 2,000 bows a day, like 20 sets, more than 2,000 bows. And he said, he really would scream. And like, he just sent me off with this recipe, which included 20 sets of bows a day. I was only 35. My knees were good. Everything would, I could do that. And I used to do it without any pushing up or catching. I would just do it completely with only my legs. But anybody, I'm not an athlete, anybody could do that if they're conditioned. So I was already conditioned. I went and I did it. I didn't miss one time, the whole time. I did that for 100 days. Well, what a gift. I mean, it sounds hard, but it was incredibly, incredibly helpful. It's in my gut all the time. Not just that retreat, but everything that's rich and important and you learn a lot from is in your gut. And so that carries me. And but I just want to say that one day, I almost burned down the cabin because I was sleeping outside. It was October. It was still warm enough that I loved sleeping outside. So I would when my practice would be over at 10:15 or 10 o'clock or something, I'd go outside until midnight, because I'd go back in there to practice again at midnight, and then I go back out there at 2. And so I had this whole thing, a round robin of 5 sessions a day, 5 practicing sessions a day. And so I'd sleep for 2 hours, and then I'd come back in, and I'd sleep for 3 more hours. And because it's nothing but practice, and there's no fighting, and there's no conflict, there's no people driving me crazy, there's just the chickadees and the squirrels and the smell of the pine and all of that wonderful stuff. So that's all I had. So it was that 5 hours is more than enough sleep, believe me, when you're doing that kind of stuff. So no napping. I wouldn't even be tired during the day. So one night I was sleeping out there, and I had the wood stove going. There was quite a bit of heat from the wood stove, and I had stacked the wood too close to the stove. So anyway, the wood caught fire, and so it was this brand new cabin. This was like a brand new cabin. I was actually insulating it. It hadn't even ever. I was the first person to use it. And part of the deal was that I would insulate it while I was staying there. And it was still, as I said, it was October, so it wasn't that cold yet. So that was part of my job. And so I'm out there, and it was a nice cabin. It was made out of nice wood, nice windows, and so I was sound asleep, way underneath my sleeping bag, with a beanie on. I mean, I was just totally inside the bag with the beanie, and something said to me, take a look, really quietly, softly, take a look. It was like sometimes you have an inner voice. It just said, take a look. And it woke me up, and I said, because I was so tired, I needed my sleep. So I went, then it said it again, take a look, a little louder, take a look. I didn't want to get up. Then it went, take a look, like that. Really, it was amazing. 3 times. The last time was like, you better take a look, So I did. I looked. I knew to look at the cabin. I just looked at the cabin. It was glowing inside. I'm like, oh God. And so I had very wonderfully, had 5-gallon white bucket, these big white buckets, and I had 5 of them full of water for that reason. And so that was good that I had done that. And so it only took like 2 buckets, and I got the pile of wood. I got it in time, in other words. There was some singeing, but hardly any. And just the windows were just blackened with smoke. So I just stayed up, and I started washing the windows, and I just couldn't believe that. I felt so grateful that I caught it in time, because it would have been so hard. This person had put their heart into building this cabin. They let me use it, but I would not. There's no way I wouldn't have paid for it, for everything. I would have had to pay for it and leave the retreat and blah, blah, blah. It would have been over for the retreat. So I was just so glad that I caught it in time. And And I was just cleaning the windows, and it took about 3 hours. It was still like really early in the morning and so I ran out of water. So I was walking to the well to get some water, and it all of a sudden it occurred to me, like, what was that voice? Where did that voice come from? I hadn't even thought it. I just felt gratitude for like 3 hours washing these windows. And then I started walking towards the well, and I went, that was interesting. Like, where did that voice come from? And I just kind of glibly said, must have been Kwanzaa Boso. Well, what else would it have been? It was the saint of holiness. It was like someone gave me a lift, Yeah, I'd label it Kwanzaa Boso because that's just in our language system in Buddhism. But then I said to myself, like, with complete don't know, I went, that was your voice. So it was my voice that said, take a look. Because it always is. I said, that was your voice. And then I wish I could give it to you on a silver platter, but I'm going to probably start crying. But Kwanzaa and Boso and that voice are not different. You're right, there's no separation from compassion in our true self. There's no separation. Just the desire, anger, and ignorance and the opinions, conditioning, and blah-blah-blah fog things up, but there's no separation. And that's just those are just words, there's no separation. But if you get it, that there's no separation, which I did at that moment, because I was purified. I was busting my ass bowing every day. I was clean, I was like, duh. So then I really got it in a deep way. And it's not Bobby Rhodes that got it, it was just practicing mind got it. And that's what you all can do. You all can do that. And so I'm like a broken record with come to retreats, do extra practice. Don't think it's not going to help, it helps every time if you put your heart into it. It's not out of a should, that's not self-flagellation. It's like just get strong, get clear, try. So, yeah. I think I have to stop because Sanim is lurching over there. But I hope you like that story because I love that story.
We're out of time. Do you have a real short question?
Short question. The answer might not be. The experience sounds really amazing, and I'm sure we all wish we could do that, but I'm just wondering, and it's sort of way on the side of the issue, how you think about the fact that your teacher really yelled and screamed at you in what seemed to be real anger.
No, it was no anger. It was enthusiasm about practice. It wasn't anger.
Oh, no. You said he yelled, he screamed.
Yeah, but you can yell like...
Okay.
Yeah.
Easy then.
Yeah, because you yell at a kid like get out of the street. Yeah. You're not mad at them, but you got to show that energy, or they're not going to get out of the street.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah.
All right. Thank you both for your talks. Thank you, Dave, for filling in at the last minute. So speaking of retreats, we actually have a 7-day YMJJ with Zen Master Hyang kicking off in half an hour. If you do 3 days, you could probably still join on Wednesday. Just let us know if you would like to do that. Also, Kilche is starting January 4th. That is a week minimum at our beautiful monastery. And you don't need previous experience with retreats with Quantum to join that retreat. For beginners or returning students, we're going to actually have 4 retreats through March with Zen Master Tangang. And that's going to be 2 one-day retreats, a Christian Buddhist retreat, and a Foundations of Zen workshop. And then the one-day and the Christian one in February and March will be hybrid, so you can actually join on Zoom. So it'll be the same format as we have with the Dharma talks, where people can join remotely and sit with the people who are sitting in person. A couple other minor announcements. Next Wednesday, the dinner is canceled, but practice will take place as usual. And the Quantum Americas fundraiser has kicked off, and we really appreciate your support with that. There is a QR code on the board outside in the area outside the interview room, or you can find it online. And that is all the announcements for now. So thank you so much for coming, and thank you for your practice.
I just want to let folks know that anybody that stayed last night, slept over, and you would like to go down in the kitchen and get a bite to eat, you can do that right after this. And there's some snacks that will be out in the lobby there. Okay, thank you.
What time does the retreat start?
So the retreat is going to be 12:15 in here. You're going to have orientation, and the retreat actually, I guess, kicks off at 1:45.
Yes.
So should we eat before?
Yes.
Right. So then, yeah. And I'm assuming that the people that are coming for that already ate. The outside folks that are coming to do the retreat already ate. We're not really serving lunch for folks like that.
Do we need people to help set up?
I guess Tony says that he does.
Yes.
And he's going to direct people. Marshall at the Zen Master with some access that you need. You can talk.
That was great. What?